Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark with a Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1949 romantic comedy A Letter to Three Wives.
We want you here and we've waited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. A Letter to Three Wives has a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and an 86% fresh rating from the audience. And I'm currently reviewing every movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics. This movie stars Linda Darnell as Laura, Jean Crane as Deborah, Ann Southern as Rita, Kirk Douglas, who is one of my favorite actors of all time, as George, Paul Douglas as Porter, and Jeffrey Lynn as Brad. So this movie revolves around three married couples, and the three wives of the married couples decide one day that they want to go on a boat trip, just have a nice day on the sea together and kind of get away from everything. While they're on this boat, they are handed a letter from a mail carrier, and the letter is from a woman named Addie. Now, all three of the women are very familiar with Addie because all three of their husbands just absolutely adore Addie, and they adore her so much that they are willing to talk openly about it in front of their wives.
Generous to a fault.
To a fault. That's Addie. Porter says Addie Rawson's got class. And he knows class, like I know navigation.
You stick to your guns, Porter. It shows a healthy instinct. You may call it class, but what Addie has is taste.
About how she's the nicest person, the most conscientious person, the smartest person, the most beautiful person in the world. And they're just at a dinner table, and these guys are just talking about how much they love this girl named Addie. Wow, what a woman that is. She is the best woman who ever lived. So Addie delivers a letter to these three women, and the letter says, "You may have noticed, but I moved out of town, but not to worry, I'll never forget any of you. I will always remember you because I took a token with me when I left, and that token was I ran off with one of your husbands."
Dearest Debbie, Laura May, and Rita, as you know by now, you'll have to carry on without me from here. It isn't easy to leave a town like our town, to tear myself away from you three dear, dear friends who've meant so much to me. And so I consider myself extremely lucky to be able to take with me a sort of memento. Something to remind me always of the town that was my home, and of my three very dearest friends, whom I want never to forget. And I won't. You see, girls, I've run off with one of your husbands.
Now, of course, these three women are on a boat, so they have no idea which husband actually ran off with Addie, but each of them have their own issues that they're going with in their relationships, to where you think it's plausible that each husband could have ran off with Addie. So we are shown a series of flashbacks from each of the marriages that kind of show us why their marriages might be on the rocks and why the wives are concerned that their husbands ran away with this woman. So the first flashback is of Deborah and Brad. Now, Deborah is meeting Brad's friends, and these are friends who once thought that Brad was actually going to marry Addie at some point in his life. Now, Debbie does not have a lot of confidence. She is very concerned about meeting Brad's friends, and one reason for that is that at the last minute she was told she needed to wear a very fancy dress, and she only has a very old, very tattered, kind of beat up dress, and she's concerned about wearing it because she doesn't want to embarrass herself. Now, she ends up wearing it anyway, and during a dancing routine with her husband, the dress kind of rips a little bit, and she is absolutely mortified by this. She is so mortified that she runs to her room, she leaves the area, she runs, and she's confronted by Rita, who is the next flashback. Rita is married to George. She is a writer of stories for soap operas, and he is a school teacher. Now, I believe this is the first movie or television show that I've seen from the 1950s in which the man makes less money than the woman in the relationship, which to me seems pretty progressive at the time. If you look at shows from like I Love Lucy, which I believe was from the 50s, the Dick Van Dyke Show, other shows like that, or you watch movies from the 1950s, I can't think of a single instance where the man made less than the woman. So that's interesting to see in a movie, especially since I make so much less than my wife. Now, he is a little embarrassed by this. He says he feels a little demasculated by the fact that he makes less money than his wife. Now she senses this, she knows this, I think, so she tries to get him a job where she works, and he kind of blows the opportunity, and she gets very upset by this and tells him, you blew your chance at working at this great job. It pays like $100,000 a year or something like that. And he said, look, I appreciate what you're doing for me, but I love teaching. And if other teachers like me decide to take opportunities where we made more money just because we made more money, then who's going to be the qualified people who are eager and ready to mold young minds? And I thought it was a fantastic speech that he gave. He's probably my favorite character. This is probably my favorite relationship in the movie. Although I did like Laura and Brad a little bit too, just because I like Laura as a character. But I thought that Kirk Douglas's character, George, did very well here. And Rita is so caught up in this, trying to get him a job, that she totally forgets it's his birthday. But you know who didn't forget it was his birthday? Addie. She mailed him a record for his birthday, which kind of causes a rift and a problem with Rita. So after this relationship, we are then at the last relationship, which is going to be Laura and Porter. Now, Laura grew up a poor woman. She was poor most of her life. And Porter is a very rich man, but he's also much older than Laura. So it is seen that she is maybe some kind of gold digger. He believes that at the first chance she gets, she's going to leave him and take half of what he owns, just because he believes that she's only with him for his money. Now, there's also a scene in this movie where I believe he receives also some kind of gift or something from Addie as well. So couple that with the fact that she believes that her husband thus thinks she's a gold digger. And he thinks that she's just a gold digger, so he also has reasoning to leave and go to Addie as well. Now, when the women get back, I believe the first couple that we are shown is George and Rita. Now, the whole Addie giving him a record thing was just a misunderstanding. There was nothing to look into there. It's just like a friendly birthday thing, a friendly thing that happened, and there's no ill intent. And he loves his wife, and he is not the one who ran off with Addie. So that is perfect, because I was really hoping it wasn't Kirk Douglas's character, because I really wanted to like Kirk Douglas's character, George, in this movie, so I was hoping that it wasn't him who did it. Now, the second one that we run into is Porter and Laura. Now, when Laura gets home, even though she sees Porter there, so she doesn't, it would be hard for him to run off with Addie because he's actually there, she confronts him about it, and she says, well, we got this letter that says someone ran off with Addie, and he says, oh, so you thought it was me, huh? And she basically, says yes. And then he gives her an out. He says, okay, let's say I did run off with Addie, and then I decided to come back. This gives you a perfect reason to divorce me and take me for half my money. If that's what you're going to do, just please go ahead and do it already, because I'm tired of waiting. And she, of course, doesn't do this, because that's not the person that she is. That's not why she's with him, even though that's kind of the reason why he thinks. She's actually with him because she loves him and because she wants to be with him. So that story ties up nicely too. So unfortunately, the only couple we have left are the two people who are in the Navy, Deborah and Brad. And Brad was the one who his friends all thought would end up with Addie at some point. Now, she gets a message. When she gets home, there's a message waiting from Brad that says that he is not going to be coming home later that night. So, of course, it is thought that Brad is the one who ran off. Now, they all have this dinner planned later on at night that they're going to, and Deborah ends up showing up, and they all show up, and Porter seems to be like, I think Porter for sure doesn't know that Brad was the one who ran off with Addie, and it seems like maybe George doesn't either, because Porter keeps asking, hey, when's Brad coming? Are we going to see Brad? He keeps asking about Brad, until finally Deborah says Brad ran away with Addie. And she's very upset by this, and she starts to walk away very sad, and Porter sees this, and he does a very human thing, a very, very nice thing at the end of the movie, where he says, look, it wasn't Brad who ran off with Addie, it was me. And Deborah says, "What do you mean? Like, you're here? How could you have ran off with Addie?" And he says, "I decided to come back. I decided that I didn't actually want to run off with her." And I think the fact that Deborah knows that, even though I think these were Brad's friends at first, Deborah knows that she's not alone. She has people that she can talk to, and she has people who care about her, which I don't think she knew that in the movie. I don't think she really felt that close to these people, especially to the men in the group, because the men are very chauvinistic. They're very 1950s, where they're not very nice to their wives. They tell their wives to shut up a lot, or at least Porter does. He tells his wife to shut up. He doesn't treat her very well. He's like the king of the castle, and she needs to do what he says, type of thing. But he shows a very different side, a very caring side at the end of the movie. I think that's something that she really appreciates, and it's something that really resonates. And I thought it was a very nice gesture at the end of the movie, because there's not really a whole lot he can do besides let her know that he's there for her. And I thought it was a very nice way to end the movie, even though I wasn't really happy with the fact that it was Brad. I really honestly thought it was going to be Porter that left after I saw what was going on in the relationships. I thought for sure it was going to be Porter. I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be George. I thought for sure Porter, but I was wrong. So this movie is, like I said, it's a movie that I don't think I've seen this type of plot in a movie before. I think this is the first time, so it definitely does something new. And George's storyline, like I said, where he is a man who earns less than his wife, I thought that was like huge for this time period too. I was actually blown away by the fact that he made less than his wife. Not because he makes less, but because it's the 1940s, late 1940s, almost into the 1950s, and this is a man who is making less money than his wife, and it's on the screen, which I thought was incredible. Besides that, the pacing of this movie is fine. I will say that at the beginning of the movie, it took me a long time to get into this movie. I would say that the character of Brad and Deborah, Brad and Deborah, I didn't really care about, and that's the relationship that they started with, and it's one that I cared least about. So it was hard to get me drawn into this movie at first. It started off very slow for me, but then when they got to George's character and when they got to Porter and his wife, then I thought, okay, like, I'm really invested in these two couples. I think that these are the better of the two couples. They have the better of the two storylines. These are the stronger of the two couples. I probably should have known by that point that that meant that these two couples would be the ones who stayed together, because they were the strongest ones, I felt. But all in all, I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was great. Like I said at the beginning, I had some pacing issues. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I just thought it was okay. There wasn't a whole lot there that, to me, would make it a great movie. But I give it an 8 out of 10. So I hope you join me next time when I am reviewing The Naked Spur. Thank you. Have a great day.